Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I want to share with you all my opinions on the latest gameplay footage to come out regarding Final Fantasy 15. Now this is the first really new footage we've seen since episode Dusque. We've seen a few pieces of footage, but nothing really too exciting, and this definitely showcases some of the changes they've made since our feedback in episode Dusque. So I wanted to make a video detailing my opinions on this, turn-based versus action-based. I'll probably make an entirely separate video on that, but I'll touch on it in this one, as well as the general feel of the combat in the video, or at least the look of the combat in the video, versus the feel of the combat back in episode Dusque. So first of all, TLDR, I thought this was a great display of the gameplay footage. Now, there are some elements here that I was really happy to see improved. For example, the fact that the weapons are now in the bottom left and you can swap between them freely using the D-pad is definitely an improvement for me over that automatic thing that we had before, which while it worked for the demo, it definitely wasn't as exciting as the ability to actively change your weapons. It's something that other action games that like Devil May Cry do very well, and I'm very glad to see it making an appearance here. Also, the UI in general definitely seems a little bit smoother. The aerial combat seems a little bit smoother. Teleporting and the use of different things, for example, like you can see warp kill and you can sometimes just see teleport. It just all seems to be a whole lot more intuitive than it was before, and it just looks like it flows better. I mean, the frame rate even looks better, although granted this isn't exactly a super high intensity scenario. I've heard a lot of people talk about, this doesn't really look like a Final Fantasy game. The big joke was Metal Gear 15 because of the big-ass robots. To me, big-ass robots are pretty common. In fact, a lot of these robots remind me of the War Mech back from Final Fantasy 1, so I was actually kind of happy to see them. On top of the Imperial soldiers, I love the way that the combat flows, the way that he's dodging up and through and changing his weapons constantly, and, he has attack versus defense. I like it. I understand it's still very simple, as you can see, just an attack and defend command, but you also have these new, what look like improved joint attacks. In fact, it almost looks like you have quite a bit of control over your allies, which was something that we didn't expect to get at all. Although, really, the place where it looks like you have the most control is with Gladiolus right here. The other ones, while they look like they work, I don't know, it didn't look like it was as smooth for anyone except for Gladiolus. And on top of that, I'm glad to actually see things like these action sequences with the turrets, being able to jack turrets and use them against them. I remember back in the Versus 13 trailer seeing that we would be able to do things like take over mechs entirely and just ride them around town and whatnot. And this battle against the mech looks phenomenal. Now, there's some other things I'm still trying to figure out with this. For example, there's that blue bar above attack and defend. I see it go down occasionally when he uses warp. I thought originally it might go down when he dodges, but instead, I don't know, he just warped to him right there and it didn't go down. So I think I need to watch the video a couple more times and really figure it out. But the big thing that they showcased, and you just saw it right there, was magic. Now, magic is something that has long been talked about in Final Fantasy 15, and it's always been said that it was always going to be kind of like a double-edged sword. For example, you saw, and we're going to just keep playing through the trailer while I talk, again and again, you actually see that the Magitech, the robot that I said looks like the War Mech, he actually goes for a vital point and breaks the vital point. Hello, Los Angeles. That would be very loud driving by. So, he goes for a vital point, and when he hits it, it actually spills oil all over the place. This oil, of course, is flammable, so when he casts fire on it, it just blows up the area and deals tons of damage to everything. It pretty much wipes out everything in the area. And you're going to see a lot of things like that, especially with the dynamic weather system. Like, let's say if you use that fire out in an open patch of grass, it'll probably light the grass on fire. And these effects can hurt both the enemies and yourself, so you have to use them very tactically. On top of that, you have, using thunder in the rain. It could be very dangerous. It could do more damage to them, but there's also a chance of you conducting it. And it's these dynamic events that I feel are going to define Final Fantasy 15. Now, I know one of the, going back to the whole Final Fantasy, since we're, kind of back in the Metal Gear 15 where he's stealthing around in the video right now, I kind of understand what people are saying, that this doesn't really look like a Final Fantasy game. Like, somebody could have made this game with this exact gameplay footage, only shown me this gameplay footage in this isolated scenario, and told me, hey, this is a new action RPG coming out. What do you think it is? And I may have guessed Final Fantasy, but I most likely would have said I have no idea, because this doesn't really look too Final Fantasy-esque. Now, granted, there are plenty of elements from Final Fantasy. I mean, we've been seeing elements, Iron Giants, Behemoths, Chocobos. Like, don't get me wrong, the elements that make a Final Fantasy game are there. This gameplay footage, though, definitely doesn't capture what they are. That being said, I'm the kind of person who doesn't define Final Fantasy as, oh, it's a turn-based, combat system, and they should never deviate from it. I'm happy to see Final Fantasy 15 is deviating from what, while it is a fun formula, it's a formula I have so many games to choose from, and there are other games coming out, like World of Final Fantasy, and there's always the Bravely games, like Bravely Default, Bravely Second, the Persona titles. There's so many turn-based RPGs, and honestly, it can get a bit tiring only playing those for me. So I'm personally happy to see that this game's moving towards more of an action sequence kind of game, or an action RPG, because I remember as a kid I've always dreamed about action sequences like this. When I first saw Advent Children, the Final Fantasy VII movie, I didn't think they should make a turn-based game on Advent Children. I said, hey, they should make a game that plays just like Advent Children. We kind of got that with like Crisis Core, and Final Fantasy 13 was very cinematic but didn't really play like that. The Dissidia games are very Advent Children-esque, and 15 was always the answer. I was waiting for this to be the game that, reminds me of what it would be like to play Advent Children. And, of course, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake coming, and that's going to be a whole thing in itself that you'll probably see a bunch of videos about from me. But overall, I was happy with this. I understand some of the complaints, but I'm not one of them complaining. So I'm just happy to see that this game is nearing completion. And the big thing that came out of the Final Fantasy 15 ATR was that there's going to be a live event called Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered, which is going to be the release date event. And I might as well mention Aranea Highwind right here, the Dragoon that we saw from the Versus 13 video, God knows how long ago. So she's going to be making a return. They said there were going to be a lot of knights like her that kind of took after the jobs of the Final Fantasy universe. So she's a Dragoon. You may see like a warrior. You may see a thief. You may see more NPCs that are just like her. So I'm looking forward to fighting bosses that are cool and that resemble actual player-sized characters, not these big things like the Behemoth and the Kadobopop and Titan like we've been seeing. I don't know. I'm happy to see Final Fantasy taking its next steps and moving into action-based combat. We'll have plenty of turn-based ones on the handheld consoles, on the PS4, maybe if World of Final Fantasy does well, but I'm a fan of this. Let me know what you think about the Final Fantasy 15 gameplay footage that we just saw right here. Oh, and I also forgot to go back to Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered, and there goes another thing in LA. That's great. So let me know what you think about this, and if you're going to be going to Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered, which is taking place on March 30th, at Hollywood, and is going to be where they announce the release date of Final Fantasy 15. I'm expecting July. That is my guess for the Final Fantasy 15 release date. Knock that down. I don't know a day, but that is the month that I'm guessing Final Fantasy 15 is finally going to be coming out after all of these years of waiting. So be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Share your thoughts on the gameplay footage, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.